أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Continuing with the story of Musa alayhi salam from Surah Al-Qasas, we followed the story until when he grew up in the palace of Pharaoh. He was now Musa ibn Pharaoh, not Musa ibn Imran anymore. But he had some links with his origins. He used to go on frequent visits to Medina to Ibraniyin, close to Memphis, the capital. And usually when he used to go, of course, there was protocols to be observed, notifications, prior notifications, and so quite official visits he had, until one time he went to the Medina to Ibraniyin without any prior notice. So things were not arranged for him, officials were not notified. And this is what verse number 15 says, وَدَخَلَ الْمَدِينَةَ عَلَى حِينَ غَفْلَةٍ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. He entered the city, that's Medina to Ibraniyin, the city where the Jews were living, while the people were not notified about his visit. Now, of course, what he saw was quite different. There were toils of Banu Israel, accompanied by tortures, beatings. فَوَجَدَ فِيهَا رَجُلَيْنِ يَقْتَتِلَانِ. So he found two men fighting each other, trying to kill each other. هَذَا مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ. Now, يَقْتَتِلَانِ, of course, this was not an ordinary fight. It was just for life and death. They were trying to kill each other. هَذَا مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ وَهَذَا مِنْ عَدُوِّهِ. One of them was from his Shia, and one of them was from his enemy. Now here, of course, it could have been said, هذا من قومه, or هذا من أهله, وهذا من عدوه. However, Shia is usually used for followers. It's not used for someone who's related to us or someone who has tribal link or whatever racial link. Shia means follower. And usually when we say Shi'atu fulanin, means someone who follows someone else, isn't it? وَإِنَّ مِن شِي'َتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ. About Nuh, Allah says one of his Shia, one of his followers, was Ibrahim. When we say Shi'atu Ali, for example, say we are Shi'atu Ali, it doesn't have any racial or tribal link, does not notify that. It means following, no matter how far we are from in racial point of view. We follow Ali, for example, because we are Shi'atu Ali. Here, this is very interesting. Now, Musa had followers in Banu Israel. He had his own Shia there. And this is what we discussed yesterday. Musa, although he was living in the palace, but he was thinking how he could save these people, the Banu Israel. And Banu Israel also had some sort of knowledge that this is their savior. If anyone can save them, it is Musa ibn Pharaoh. It is Musa, who's living in the palace, who can save them. And actually the word had gone round, and people had taken side. Followers of Musa. Musa, of course, was a young prince still, not more than probably 20 years, but he had his own followers in Medina to Ibraniyin. This is why we have historical records that at this juncture, actually, Pharaoh had found out what mistake he had made, and he wanted to somehow kill Musa, to somehow get rid of Musa. And that's why he sent Musa to a couple of very dangerous missions, military mission and other missions. He sent Musa in the hope that he would never come back. Of course, he didn't want to kill him openly, because people would have said Pharaoh is killing his own son. Why Musa hadn't done anything, but he wanted to get rid of him. And this is why they were so quick, now we'll see, they were so quick after the skirmish which took place to decide to kill Musa. So Musa had his own followers. Here he entered the Medina and he saw that one of his followers was fighting with one of the commanders of officers of Pharaoh. فَاسْتَغَاثَهُ الَّذِي مِنْ شِيئَتِهِ. The one who was his follower asked for help. Now, what would have Musa done in this situation? Musa was very careful not to take any wrong move to destroy the plan to save Banu Israel. But this was something he just bumped into without having much choice to decide what to do. This man was going to be killed, and the Coptic officer was going to kill him. So what should he do? He just went to help, and he just punched the man, and the poor man was so weak that, or Musa was so strong, either way, and just by the first punch, he died. So, فَوَكَذَهُ Musa. Musa punched him. فَقَضَى عَلَيْهِ. Finished him. By punching him, he finished him. Now, here, Musa says, قَالَ هَذَا مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. This was from Amal al-Shaytan. What Musa did, or what that Shia did? Which one? We know that the Shaitan has no access to prophets before being appointed as prophet or after being appointed as the prophet. So we have to, because from many other verses of the Quran we understand that. So in light of that, we have to explain, what does it mean? هذا من عمل الشيطان. This was something done by Shaitan. Amal al-Shaytan, done by Shaitan, it means that if he means the killing of that man was Amal al-Shaytan, that Shaitan was acting in Musa, or Musa was acting as a proxy for Shaitan. Well, this is very strange. We cannot accept this about people like Musa, about prophets, that قَالَ هَذَا مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. So what was that? Now, هَذَا مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ may mean many things. One of the meanings is that this man, this Shia, was one of those stupid, hard-headed followers of Musa who just wanted to create problems all the time. He couldn't move according to any plan. He couldn't do anything reasonable. So he used to start fight. And this is why next morning again Musa see he's fighting with another man. It's very radical, revolutionary sort of member of Banu Israel who was so stupid that he was actually a proxy of Shaitan doing this, to not helping Banu Israel in any way, not helping any cause, just because he was so radical, so sensational. He wanted to fight people of Pharaoh. So قال هذا من عمل الشيطان. This is one interpretation. The other interpretation is that the whole event, it destroyed all plans of Musa. Because Musa, as I said, he was an important man. He was in the palace. He was planning how to save Banu Israel. He had his own plans for it. Now everything destroyed. And this sort of all setting was min amal al-shaytan. إِنَّهُ عَدُوٌّ مُضِلٌّ مُبِينٌ. And then he said, قال رب إني ظلمت نفسي فغفر لي فغفر له. He said, God, I wronged myself. Now, did he wrong himself by killing that man? No, because he was doing something which was really, by any standard of ethics or religion, it was good. He was saving an oppressed person who was going to be killed. So why he did wrong himself? Because, as I said, he destroyed his plan of saving Banu Israel. Now he realized everything is finished. He made the wrong move. The wrong move that Pharaoh was waiting for a long time. He made the wrong move. The man was killed. This is going to go to the palace. The news is going to go to the palace quickly, and he is going to be in trouble. Even if not going to be, well, he doesn't know yet that they are going to kill him, But he knew that he wouldn't have that free hand anymore with Banu Israel coming, visiting, trying to do something for them. So قال رب إني ظلمت نفسي فاغفر لي فغفر له. This غفران, Allah says فغفر له, that means we made up that for him. And of course, this was a new plan of God. Well, Musa was planning, certainly, and God was planning. And God planned in a different way. God didn't want Musa to just run into a plan by himself. He wanted his own plan to go forward, not Musa's plan. So Allah, of course, forgave him. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ قَالَ رَبِّ بِمَا أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيَّ فَلَنْ أَكُونَ ظَهِيرًا لِلْمُجْرِمِينَ. Now here, we don't know what sort of munajat was going between Musa and God in that very difficult night, because in that night Musa didn't know what to do, didn't want to return to the palace, didn't know what is going to happen. So what sort of munajat was going between Musa and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? However, Allah mentions just sentences from that. That munajat, that Musa said, إِنِّي ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي, and then he was inspired that he was forgiven, that this is going to be a new plan. This is going to be a new thing. He realized that. And then after this sort of inner conversation, esoteric sort of conversation with God, he said, now that you have blessed me with this forgiveness, I'm not going to help any of mujrameen. Or, because Musa was a powerful man, we can put it in this way, that قال رب بما أنعمت علي في القوة في الجسم. I'm not going to use this at all to help mujrameen, to support mujrameen. Okay. Now, Pharaoh found the pretext he needed to kill Musa. As I said before, these princes, the sons of Pharaoh, they could do whatever they wanted. They could kill whoever they wanted. It was not the case that by just killing one officer, a son of Pharaoh was going to be punished. However, Pharaoh could have punished his son by such a thing. He never did, of course. Here he wanted that excuse to kill Musa, and the excuse was found. So immediately the news reached the palace that Musa has killed an officer in Medina to Ibraniyin in support of one of those slave men. And Pharaoh summoned his ministers. That's what should we do with Musa now? Here, of course, the decision was that we would kill Musa. Now, before we come to this, I want to mention another story which did happen before this. Because this is a juncture in which Musa is leaving Egypt. Or let us finish with this and then I'll come to that story. Just before Musa leaves Egypt, he hasn't left Egypt yet. So, فَأَصْبَحَ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ خَائِفًا يَتَرَقَبُ. He didn't go back to palace. He didn't want to go back to palace. He knew what is waiting for him there. So he was frightened in the sense that he was expecting, يَتَرَقَبْ, expecting to be arrested at any moment. فَأَصْبَحَ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ خَائِفًا يَتَرَقَبُ فَإِذَا الَّذِي اسْتَنْصَرَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ. Until next morning, he was still wondering. He didn't want to go to his own home, his mother's home, because it would have created a problem for them as well. So he didn't want to go to any house, because if he was arrested in any house, that house would have been would have been troubled as well. So he was just wandering in the streets. Next morning, he saw the same man is fighting another Coptic man. فَإِذَا الَّذِي اسْتَنْصَرَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ يَسْتَصْرِخُ. He started to, well, the point is he was not a strong man. He started a fight and he needed help all the time. So he asked again, Musa, come and help me. قَالَ لَهُ مُوسَى إِنَّكَ لَغَوِيٌّ مُبِينٌ. He said, you are really a stupid man. starting all these fights with all these officers, armed soldiers. Why you do this? Still, nonetheless, he wanted to help him, because these people were oppressed ones. Those people, of course, always oppressed and always bullied. Musa expected that they had patience for all those bullying and oppression, so that they move according to the plan. However, still he was an oppressed man. فَإِذَا أَرَادَ أَن يَبْطِشَ بِالَّذِي هُوَ عَدُوٌ لَهُمَا. Then he wanted to again punch the other man, and the other man said, Ya Musa, well, this was Prince, of course. The other man didn't want to assault him or to do anything, attack him. He just said, Ya Musa, أَتُرِيدُ أَن تَقْتُلَنِي كَمَا قَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا بِالْأَمْسِ. You want to kill me as well, as you killed my colleague yesterday, another man yesterday? إِن تُرِيدُ إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَ جَبَّارًا فِي الْأَرْضِ. This is clearly the talk of that officer who doesn't want to assault Musa because he's afraid of the consequences. He's the prince. Still, he says that you want to be an oppressor, you want to be a dictator. إن تريد إلا أن تكون جبارا في الأرض وما تريد أن تكون من المصلحين. If this is Islam, if this is reform that you want to bring about, this is not the type of reform, killing one man every day. So Musa stopped doing it, but saved that person again. Remember, I said there were some people in the palace who had placed hope on Musa, and this was a very outstanding personality, cousin of Pharaoh. He was Mu'minu Ali Pharaoh, whose story is set in chapter 40. وَقَالَ رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ مِّنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ يَكْتُمُ إِيمَانَهُ. The man who was concealing his faith. He was faithful to God, he was not mushrik, and he had placed hope on Musa. Now, the Pharaoh had called the council that what should we do with Musa? Musa has killed an officer. Musa has actually created lots of troubles in Medina to Ibraniyin. The decision was that we kill Musa. And Pharaoh, of course, wanted not this decision coming from his own mouth, he wanted the decision to come from the council. The council decided that we would kill Musa, and this one was one of the members of the council. So immediately he sent someone to Medina to Ibraniyin to notify Musa that Musa, just run away, just run, do not wait for anything. There is no other choice, just run away from Egypt. So وَجَاءَ رَجُلٌ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ يَسْعَى. A man rushing from the farther part of the city. قال يا موسى إن الملأ يأتمرون بك. The Mala, that's the ministers, the council, are having a consultation about you. ليقتلوك, they want to kill you. فاخرج إني لك من الناصحين. So just leave. I am a well-wisher for you. Of course, Musa didn't know this man, so probably he gave all the signs that I have come from that person, that Mu'min Ali Fir'aun, and so just leave. And Musa took the advice. He started to leave, and of course the story of his leaving is another thing. Now let's come back to the story which happened before this. Musa was sent as commander of the army to some battles. Of course, the details of that we are not told about, but some stories have it that apart from that, Musa was sent by Pharaoh to find out the origins of the Nile, where the Nile come from. And this was, of course, a mission that Pharaoh knew that anyone going to that black Africa from Egypt alone cannot come back. He wanted to kill him. Now, on that way, something happened on that mission. This is, of course, not quite authentic that this mission of finding the origins of Nile or whatever. However, there was, beside that mission for Musa, there was a mission by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, he was given hukm and ilm. Now, Allah wanted to teach him more. So he said that on your way, as you are going, you go to a place where two waters meet, or two seas meet, and you find a man that you have to learn things from him. This is Musa's meeting with Khidr alayhi salam. Now, traditions, both biblical traditions or Judaic traditions and Muslim traditions usually put this encounter after Musa had taken Banu Israel out of Egypt. And the reason they give for it is a very mean reason. And that is, Musa, after doing all these, he thought, who is more knowledgeable than I am? Who is more exalted than I am? And Allah wanted to tell him that no, there is someone else who knows more than you, but the story does not actually support it. Our understanding from the personality of Musa does not support it. Especially after given Torah, especially after all those things, suddenly Musa losing his mind, thinking arrogant like that is not possible. My understanding is that this meeting was arranged for Musa by Allah before him leaving Egypt, while he was still very young, and Allah wanted to teach him, to instruct him by a private tutor, private spiritual tutor, who was very knowledgeable. And this was the second phase. The first phase of Allah's blessing on Musa was وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. Allah gave him hukm and ilm, wisdom and knowledge, both of them. And the second one was that instruction that you go and find a person who is knowledgeable and learn knowledge from him. Now you may say, why prophets need to learn from others? Well, فَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. And also this was before Musa becoming a prophet, appointed prophet. And also we know that Siddiqeen and Anbiya, they learn from each other. Just like Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he was one of the Siddiqeen, he learned all his knowledge from the Prophet, peace be on him. Despite him being inspired as well, but the knowledge that he learned from the Prophet was indispensable for his growth and for his spiritual training to become what he was as Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So, let's go to that story first before going out from Egypt with Musa alayhi salam, and the story is in Surah Kahf. Musa apparently was accompanied by one of his servants, who was his servant in the palace, Fatah. These stories tell us that this Fatah was Shamun, his successor. While the type of encounter does not agree with that, because this servant was much lower in, or he didn't know anything about the spirituality. That's why Khidr did not allow this servant to accompany them. Now let's see what the story tells us. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ. Usually Quran starts stories from that highest peak where people want to follow. Of course, many things went before this. Musa came out with that servant. They went long way, searching for a man that they had to find at a meeting point of two waters. And they didn't know what waters. There were lots of meeting points of waters. They couldn't find this man. The servant said, let's go back. It's futile. We cannot find this man. And then the story starts from here. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ لَا أَبْرَحُ حَتَّى أَبْلُغَ مَجْمَعَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ. أو أمضي حقبا. I would not stop until I find that meeting place of two seas, Majma' al-Bahrain, the specific one where we have to find a man. And for he was told that when you find that specific meeting place of two waters, you will see something, you will see a sign. Which sign, they didn't know. He was told you will see a sign. So, لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبا. Or I go for a long time. حقب, usually the exit says 80 years or more. خالدين فيها أحقابا. For those who go to hell, they say أحقابا. 80 years they are going to stay there. So, means lifetime. I would not stop until I find this man, or I go on to the end of my life. Why? One lesson we take from this is the importance of this knowledge. This is a very important knowledge, and it deserves for lives to be spent to find it. If there is a way, now there was a way for Musa, and the way was indicated to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most of us don't have that way, of course. If we have that way, of course we dedicate our lives, inshallah, for it. But we don't have that way. We don't have that instruction, very clear instruction from Allah that you are going to find a man. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَجْمَعَ بَيْنِهِمَا. Okay, they went, they arrived at that meeting point of the two waters. It was just like any other meeting point. So they didn't see any sign. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَجْمَعَ بَيْنِهِمَا نَسْيَا حُوتَهُمَا. They had, of course, provision with them, some smoked fish and some bread or something that they could survive during this long journey. Here, the servant saw something, but he fell asleep, and when he woke up, he didn't remember what had happened. He thought that, was it a dream or something like that? He forgot about the fish. While before sleeping, he saw the fish going into the water. It was quite close to the water. When a surf came, took the fish became alive, was live, and just went. He saw this, he fell asleep, he didn't know, was this a sleep or a dream or something? So he just, after waking up, he forgot about it, and they moved. فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ سَرَبًا فَلَمَّا جَاوَزَا. They passed, going, searching for another meeting point of two waters. After a long time, قَالَ لِفَتَاهُ آتِنَا غَدَاءَنَا. Bring us our food. لَقَدْ لَقِينَا مِنْ سَفَرِنَا هَذَا نَصَبًا. This morning we came, it was very tough. Probably it was a tough landscape or something like that. لَقَدْ لَقِينَا مِنْ سَفَرِنَا هَذَا نَصَبًا. Now the man remembers. Oh, the fish. Oh, what happened to the fish? Oh, the fish, it went into the sea, alive. Was it a dream? It was reality. قال هذا ما كنا نبغي. Oh, this was the sign. So let's go back. Where? We didn't know. Where did we come from? We were just moving. So فارتد على آثارهما قصصا. قصصا means they were trying to find out their footprints, where they had moved, so that they go back to find that place. Okay, this was just to tell us how important this was for Musa and how difficult it was for him to find this man. You may say, why Allah makes things so difficult, isn't it? Why didn't this man just come to the door of Musa and say, Musa, let me teach you something? Well, things never happen like this. It's always difficult. We have to appreciate things. And Musa had to appreciate this knowledge. فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. They found one of our servants. Ibadina here, you see, we have two types of ibad. Compulsory ibad, voluntary ibad. Most of the people are compulsory ibad. إِن كُلُّ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ إِلَّا آتِ الرَّحْمَنَ عَبْدًا. Everything in heaven and earth, every person, man, every person in heaven and earth is an abd of Allah. Even shaitan is an abd of Allah, but compulsory abd. His life depends on Allah's will. What sort of enslavement more than that we can have towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Anytime He wishes, He can just stop us living, existing, being remembered, anytime He wishes. So this is the meaning of that enslavement. Everyone is in this world is a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, this is from above. There is a sort of servitude from below, and that is when we voluntarily want to worship Him. Whether we want voluntarily to worship Him or we do not want, we are His servants, we are enslaved. We are not enslaved, we are created like this. We are depending on Him, okay? However, some people, this now goes from here, from earth to heaven. Some people love Him, want to worship Him. This is a different ibad. This is a different servitude. So, here when Allah talks about this ibad, these type of ibad, and in many places of the Quran, Allah talks about it. Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultan. Those volunteer worshippers of me, you cannot have access to them. You cannot have sovereignty over them. So, فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. One of those ibad, those volunteer ibads they found. آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا. I don't think anyone could be praised by Allah more than this. We had given him a rahmah from us, a mercy. What was that mercy? عَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. We had taught him some knowledge. Some knowledge. Now, this nakara, indefinite words, can be used to denote greatness or smallness, triviality or greatness. Here, when it compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this was not a knowledge, this was just ilma, nothing important. We had taught this man. Compared to human life, this was huge knowledge that we had given him. It was a rahmah from us, it was huge knowledge that we have given him. And what was that knowledge? That knowledge was he could see how things would transpire in future. We had some people in our time as well who had just a limited knowledge like this. Maybe you have heard his name, Rajab Ali Khayyat. He had just a flavor of this knowledge, seeing what happens in future for things. However, of course, nothing comparable to what Khazr was given. He could see things, the way they happen, why they happen. Subhanallah, no one can have this knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted Musa to know about the root of the things which happen in this world. This is huge knowledge that is given here to us in the story of Khazr and Musa. Now, I want you to ponder on this to see what we can learn, the most important thing we can learn from this story. Okay, قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا. Musa said, is it possible that I follow you so that I learn from you from this rushd? Knowledge is called rushd. Rushd is growth, isn't it? From this growth that Allah has given you, do you allow me to do it? Well, of course, this is not certainly the statement of Musa after prophethood. This is a state of the burgeoning prophets, someone who is going to become a prophet, wanting to learn things. So, what happened? Khadr had a look at his face, and of course the servant's face. First of all, the servant is out. He is not going to follow us. But you, okay, قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. If you want to follow, there's no objection. However, you cannot have patience on what I do. And this is the situation of all of us. Just ponder we do not have patience on what God does, isn't it? We do not have patience because we do not know the reason. We think that he's negligent. We think that he's cruel. We think that he doesn't know. We cannot have patience. What Khazr is going to teach Musa is that you should know that Allah is in control. Everything that happens. If a leaf falls from the tree or a fly flies in the sky, it's God's will. Everything is in his hand. He is in control. But he has planned it in a way that that control goes with the human free will. This is the beauty of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is in control. Everything is his plan. However, we, with our free will, carry out the plans for Allah, as Pharaoh did. With his own free will, he collected Musa from the river with his own free will. He raised him in his palace. With his own free will, he made him the prince. And with his own free will, he created the enemy for himself, isn't it? So, قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا. Well, naturally you cannot have patience because you do not have the knowledge why I do things. Now, this is what Khazr does, but at the end of the day, he says that I did it all on behest of the Lord. So it was not me, it was God doing it on my hand. So you should know about the things, the way the things go in this world. Okay, what was that? Should we stop or we continue? Okay. Now, what should Musa say? A very polite answer. قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا. Now, this inshallah is very important. That God willing, if God wills, I will be patient. Please allow me to follow you. ولا أعصي لك أمرا. I would not disobey anything you say. Why he does not disobey anything? He says, because Allah had told him this is not an ordinary man. Go and learn from him. Do not disobey him, follow him. And Musa said, Inshallah, certainly I wouldn't say anything. قال فإن اتبعتني. Okay, one condition. If you follow me, do not say anything. Just watch. That's all. فلا تسألني عن شيء حتى أحدث لك منه ذكرى. Do not ask any questions until I initiate myself to tell you the story of what I did. And then I teach you. Then I teach you. Now, many things happened. Of course, it was not the case that at the first instance Musa started to object or say something. No. Only 3 instances are mentioned in the Quran in which Musa could not hold himself. Otherwise, he was remembering his pledge, he was keeping quiet for whatever he saw. There were 3 instances Musa couldn't actually do anything about it. And these 3 instances, why Khaz says, do not question me about what I do, it means that I know that you are going to object to things that I do. However, do not even question, let alone objecting, let alone complaining. Do not even question, so that I will explain for you everything later. فانطلقا. So they started their journey together. And this man, of course, was a sort of wanderer in different places, different cities, doing whatever Allah told him. So he was a poor man, he didn't have any house or anything. However, Allah says, آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا. Look, what is the rahmah of Allah? And what we think about the rahmah of Allah in this world. So, Musa started to follow this man in his journeys. He didn't tell him where we are going, he just follow me. فَانْطَلَقَ حَتَّى إِذَا رَكِبَا فِي السَّفِينَةِ. They wanted to pass the river, or they wanted to now travel by the river. And they didn't have money, although Musa had come that long way from the palace, but he didn't have anything on him. And these people were very kind, amiable people. They told them, okay, come on board. They fed them. They were very nice to them, very kind to them, without anything required them to do, from them to do. And Musa started to love them very much. Very good people, very good people. فانطلق حتى إذا ركب في السفينة خرقها. After all that, just before alighting from the ship, Khizr went to a corner, and while no one was seeing, it broke the ship. Water came in. Musa watching, wow, what are you doing? Here, Musa forgot. You see, when you suddenly come across a very appalling scene, you don't know what to do. Just like killing that man, Musa just spontaneously wanted to help the other one, defend the other one. And here he spontaneously said, قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها لقد جئت شيئا إمرا. You broke the ship to drown these people? This is really appalling. Now, of course, Khizr just looked in his eyes. قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. Didn't I tell you, you cannot have patience with me? Oh, remembered Musa. Oh my God, what a mistake I made. Now, was Musa wrong in doing this? No, of course he was not wrong. It was fitrah. It is fitrah of human beings seeing such a thing, that he wants to know, why did this man do such a thing? So after remembering, قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت. Do not put me on the spot for what I forgot. ولا ترهقني من أمري أسرا. Because probably Khizr told him, now please leave me. You would not let me to carry out my mission. You are a hindrance to my mission, whatever Allah orders me. He said, لا ترهقني من أمري أسرا. Do not be hard on me. I forgot, I apologize for that. Well, I don't speak anything anymore. Just let me follow you. فانطلقا. Now he doesn't know that he's going to see more difficult things. The more difficult thing was, حتى إذا لقيا غلاما فقتله. They came to a village, children were playing. One of the children, innocent child, just took him sneakingly behind the wall, cut his throat, killed him. And Musa was watching. Here, of course, Musa could not contain himself. It was impossible for Musa to contain himself here. قال أقتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس. You killed an innocent person without him doing anything, without for a qisas or anything. لقد جئت شيئا نكرا. This is really, really unacceptable. It's nukr. قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. Again, he called him down. I told you, you cannot. Now Musa, of course, remembers quickly that this is not an ordinary man. This is not a thug or someone doing these things. This is a man of God. Allah has told him this is a man of God. So he just said, قال. Now, of course, he didn't have that boldness to apologize again. Just said, okay, if I speak again, you do not allow me to follow you. قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني قد بلغت من لدني عذرا. Now you have an excuse. I promise. If I say anything after this, we part, and you don't have my company anymore, a cumbersome company, so to speak. فانطلقا حتى إذا أتيا أهل قرية استطعما أهلها. They came to a village. They were very hungry, very tired. Usually all villages, when they arrived, people received them, gave them food. This village, they didn't give them anything. They were ready to work for them just to get some food and water. They didn't give them anything. They asked for food. And they asked for food on condition of working for them. They didn't give them anything. Very mean people. فَأَبَوْا أَن يُضَيِّفُوهُمَا. Just coming out of the village, there was a garden, and that garden had a wall around it, and the wall was on the verge of collapse. فوجد فيها جدارا يريد أن ينقض. Now, Khaz said, Musa, we have to bring this wall down and build it again. فأقامه. They built it. Now, it was going in Musa's mind, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? What's the reason? Why? These mean people. Why should we do this for these mean people? Here he did not object, but he just couldn't help himself, asking, قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا. We could take some money for this to buy some food. قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك. Now this is the end of our company. سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. I will tell you about the ta'wil, the true meaning of what I did. You just saw what goes on the surface. You don't see the depth of things. يعلمون ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا. People know just the surface of the world. They don't know what goes beneath. And that's why they do not believe in akhirah. That's why they do not believe in what Allah does. So here he said, for whatever I did, there is a ta'wil. There is another meaning to it. You don't know. And by that, he is teaching us that whatever happens in this world, there's another meaning to it if we ponder a bit deeper. However, probably we leave the explanation and the ta'wil of what he did for tomorrow. Quickly, inshallah, at the beginning of our session, we will cover that, inshallah. Okay? وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Okay, we've got about 12 minutes for questions and answers. I guess one of the perks of being a chairman is I get to ask the first question.
Yeah.
So, my first question is, at what age did Nabi Musa become a prophet? At this time, was he a prophet?
As I said, we have different accounts of, or the usual account that we have about this meeting between Khizr and Musa is that Musa met with Khizr after they came out of Egypt and after he thought that there is no one more knowledgeable than him in this world. Which, as I said, is very strange. It looks like Israeliyat. As I said, my understanding is that this meeting took place while Musa was still in Egypt. And he was being prepared for something more, for something extra, so to speak. And that is why the meeting took place. There was a reason behind it. It was a sort of tuition by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather than just showing him that there is someone more knowledgeable than you.
Second question is, this is maybe a too big a question to be answered fully, but the issue of mistakes. Now we've seen a few things that maybe Musa, or maybe at this time, he wasn't a prophet just yet, but certainly he was ma'soom, as you mentioned yesterday. But certain things that he done out of impatience or his hot-temperedness, as we mentioned yesterday. But I would certainly, and he admitted himself that killing the Coptic officer was a mistake because he then sought forgiveness for it. So the whole issue of ma'soomeen making mistakes, not sins, but mistakes.
Yeah, well, this is what the Quran says. I don't know.
I mean, when it comes to the topic of asma, certain Muslims, for example, say that Nabi Muhammad was a ma'soom. Some say he wasn't even a ma'soom. But some say he was ma'soom, but he can make normal everyday mistakes. You know, he can put a chair in the wrong place or you know, etc. Something that is not necessarily a sin.
Well, it's very difficult to think, for example, that prophets do not make any mistake in their business, for example. That always they do a business which produces profit, isn't it? If we say mistake in this sense, because mistakes are different as well. You see, something, I mean, may be seen as a mistake from one perspective, but not from another perspective, okay? Killing that man was not a mistake from one perspective, and that was protecting that person. And from another perspective, because it destroyed the plan, was a mistake. Now, we have to actually come to an understanding of what is really that mistake that prophets cannot perform. Or, because if prophets can make mistake, it means that they can make mistake in things which they become their sunnah, isn't it? We are following sunnah of the prophet. If the prophet is someone who does mistake in his everyday life, that means his sunnah is also does involve mistakes. However, as I said, we have to distinguish between different types of mistakes. I mean, say for example, starting a business or an enterprise, or entering a contract which does not produce profits may seem to be a mistake initially by us. However, from day-to-day ordinary life, these type of contracts or business, they are not mistakes that human beings do. So we have to somehow clarify for ourselves the concept of mistake. There were certain things that the prophets did, and when we look at it from one aspect, it may be a mistake, like what Musa did, and what actually Musa did with Khizr as well, asking questions. However, from another point of view, Musa was right. His fitra did not allow to keep quiet. He was certainly facing with things which no sound human fitra would accept to keep silent over it. So we have to somehow balance between these things.
I should probably be quiet at this point and open the floor to others. We've still got a few more minutes. Brothers and sisters, any questions?
You have a question?
Assalamu
Alaikum salam.
My question is based on yesterday's talk, where you said that the prophets had to become prophets after a certain amount of time. They weren't born prophets. Now when we compare that to imamate, we say that do we say that the imams are born as imams, and would that raise the station of imamate higher than that, including that of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Oh, well, the imams are not born imams, because then that means that at one time we have two imams, isn't it? If the father is alive and the child is born as imam, then that means that at one point of time we have two imams, which is not possible. So the imam would become an imam after the previous imam passes away.
Would that mean that there is a possibility that another son of the imam would have been an imam? Like, for example, let's just say between after the sixth imam, Ismail could have been possibly like that, and how was it judged like that? Was it judged in the same way?
Yes, probably, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I got two questions. The first one is that in the whole situation he went in the city and killed that man, it was something to do with the shaitan. Could it have been something similar to Yusuf alayhi salam, when his brothers came and like his dream, and then the shaitan they corrupted his mind a bit, and as in the shaitan made Musa impatient and made him go there instead of in secrecy instead of another time. And yesterday you said that if Musa wasn't impatient, he would have something greater would have happened. So, and now you're saying Musa had plans, but he had to follow God's plan. So how does it reflect as in, if it has something to do with the shaitan, and if he wasn't that impatient, something greater would have happened, and how is it God's plan?
You see, Musa was from Mukhlasin. Mukhlas is someone who's purified by God. If we show utter sincerity, if we are mukhlas, that's someone who tries to be sincere, then at one point Allah takes hold and makes him mukhlas, purifies him. Okay, Musa was from Mukhlasin. And Shaitan right from the beginning knew that he wouldn't have access to Mukhlasin. And this is what in several places in the Quran he says, قال فبعزتك لأغوينهم أجمعين إلا عبادك منهم المخلصين. I will deceive all of them except the Mukhlasin. This is what Shaitan excludes, and of course Allah excludes many others as well. He says, this is not the case that you only have not access to Mukhlasin. There are many others that I will not allow you to take them to hell, okay? Because of their own, of course, character. If that is the case, anything mentioned here about Shaitan, we could not interpret it as a sort of access to Musa alayhi salam. So we have to understand it in a different way. As I said, قال هذا من عمل الشيطان. It may have many different meanings. One meaning may be that what I did is amal al-shaitan. The other meaning is what this man was doing was amal al-shaitan. The other is that Shaitan destroyed the whole plan. This is another interpretation of that as well. So, Shaitan did not have access to Musa. What happened? Shaitan usually ruins things. This is what we have in Surah Hajj as well. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ مِنْ رَسُولٍ وَلَا نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا إِذَا تَمَنَّا أَلْقَى الشَّيْطَانُ فِي أُمْنِيَّتِهِ. We did not send any Rasul or any Prophet, any Nabi before you, unless when they wished to do something, Shaitan destroyed it. And you can see after every Prophet what Shaitan did. Destroyed everything. However, Allah says, فَيَنْسَخَ اللَّهُ مَا يُلْقَى الشَّيْطَانِ. Allah will remove this. And the religion of the Prophets would prevail. This is just a temporary thing which happens due to, of course, the bigger plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, about the plan, as I said, Musa had a plan, but that plan was not as good as the plan of God. That he wanted Musa to leave Egypt for a while, then coming back with all those miracles, with all that power. So, Musa had a plan in his mind. He was not aware of the plan of God, that he has another plan for him. And that's why I said he thought that the plan was destroyed, but he didn't know that Allah has a bigger plan for him. And that was bringing back with all those miracles. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
My second question is, when Musa asked God to forgive him, how did he have contact with God if he wasn't a prophet?
Yeah, he was, as we said before, prophets are chosen from among Siddiqeen, okay? And because Allah had given him wisdom and knowledge, so he was one of the Siddiqeen. And Siddiqeen, like Maryam, they have some sort of communication with God. It's not revelation in the sense of prophethood, but they have some sort of communication. Just like Maryam asks the angel certain things and Allah answers him. Here, probably there was a sort of communication which was between Musa and God. And Musa was informed that he was forgiven. Allah would make up for this event which happened and destroyed his plan.
So it's like a mu'jiza that he can contact God directly.
Well, usually these communications are through angels, or they come through inspiration, like وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ Musa, mother of Musa. How was she informed that she should milk him and then throw him into the river? It was an inspiration to the heart. which may have been something similar to what Musa experienced.
A quick question about the time when Musa defended the man who was fighting the officer. So Musa at the time, he was a prince, and so of course he would have a position of authority. Why did he resort to violence and punish the officer when it would make sense that he could just say, I'm one of the princes, I order this to stop? Why did he resort to violence and then kill?
Well, we don't know what type of situation it was. Maybe the officer wouldn't have listened to him. Maybe the officer would have said that I take my orders from someone else, for example. Or maybe that was the high commander in the area, which most probably he was, because they wanted to kill Musa as a retaliation for his killing, so he should have been a very high authority there. So he may have said, I don't take orders from you, I don't take orders from Pharaoh directly. Now, these are different sort of aspects which we may think about.